What are you touching? You're so impatient. Isn't that adorable? A son will always love his mom, no matter how old he gets. In the otherwise quiet house, only the bathroom was abuzz. Without a doubt, it was my mother and my husband in there. The third person was undeniably my mother-in-law. Their excitement was mounting on the other side of that door. If I were to speak up now, would my voice, which shouldn't be here, reach them? My name is Abby. By some accounts, I'm a career woman. Even after marriage, I've continued to work hard. And now, at 39, I hold a responsible position. In my stead, the house husband role is filled by my husband, John, who is 10 years younger and currently works from home. As our daughter Ellie grows up, John has steadily become a better cook. Moreover, he has become quite the expert in childcare, and thanks to him, Ellie, now 5 years old, has grown into a lively girl who loves playing outdoors. Our house is close to my in-laws' place. It was initially a rental owned by my father-in-law. When the previous tenants moved out, he refurbished it into a beautiful standalone home. Gratefully, he gave it to our family as a wedding gift. We also have my sister-in-law's family living nearby. They have a child of the same age as Ellie, and we enjoy a close-knit family relationship. Additionally, John has a good relationship with his mother, while I've always had a tough relationship with my mother. I had always admired their healthy parent-child relationship, even before we got married. Still, the reason I cannot warm up to my own mother is probably because I can't accept her audacious habit of using my cosmetics without my permission. Our relationship with my parents, who lives within biking distance in the next town, is somewhat lukewarm. Our peaceful daily life was shattered due to an incident that happened on a public holiday. That day, I woke up feeling sluggish, but since I had no fever, I thought I was just tired and went to work as usual. While we are off on weekends, we work on public holidays. It is only with the support of my family that I am able to continue this way of working. However, my body couldn't be persuaded by my will alone, and I had to leave work early in the afternoon, after a coworker noticed that I wasn't feeling well. I rested a little in the company's break room, and then returned home. I think it was a little past 2 p.m. when I arrived. "I'm home," I called out when I opened the front door, but there was no reply from either Ellie or John. I saw 2 familiar pairs of shoes neatly aligned near the front door as I was thinking about reducing Ellie's nap times in preparation for her starting elementary school. Even though I found it odd, I wanted to change into comfortable clothes, so first I headed to the bathroom to wash my hands. The sliding door connecting the hallway straight to the bathroom was open as usual, but I stopped before entering, unable to take another step forward. I saw scattered adult clothing and underwear, and from the bathroom, I could hear cheerful voices. They were unmistakably those of John and my mother-in-law, and even my own mother. Despite my confusion, I instinctively covered my mouth and managed not to scream. Could it really be John and the others in the bathroom? I couldn't believe it as I strained my ears to listen. I had never heard such a sweet, coquettish voice from the mothers, but when I thought about it, matching it with the shoes at the entrance, it was undeniable that those 3 were in the bathroom. "Isn't Ellie off from kindergarten today? Where did you leave her?" "I left her with my buddy. Don't worry, he has kids about the same age as Ellie, so it's easy to make excuses to Abby. And I've told him I've got an important online meeting I can't miss, so he understands that I'll be at home and might pick her up late. So forget all of that. Let's not waste our precious time together." The 3 of them, unaware of my return, were having a great time. My mother blushing like a maiden, and my mother-in-law pleading in a voice that was hard to believe was directed at her son, and John, seemingly satisfied managing the 2. 3 voices I didn't want to hear echoed through my head in the small bathroom. Ugh, disgusting. Overcome with nausea, I crumbled to the floor. I wasn't sure if the involuntary sound I made was due to my sarcastic feeling that the three of them, who were obviously enjoying themselves, wouldn't hear me, or whether I wanted them to realize I was there. All I knew was that I felt so sick, I was about to collapse. After a while, I managed to overcome my nausea by crouching down and covering my ears. Then, while being careful of the frosted glass used for the bathroom door, I managed to lock the exterior lock. Who would have imagined that the child safety lock I installed when Ellie started crawling would be used for such a thing? Then I carefully took a tension rod from the entrance closet and used it to gather the scattered clothes. I also closed the sliding door facing the hallway so that the three of them would not be able to get out immediately if they noticed. My fingertips, drained of blood and cold as ice, had not yet recovered, but a strange determination was rising. I couldn't let the three of them get away with this. But in my still confused head, I couldn't think of anything. So I secured the sliding door with the rod I had in my hand to buy some time. When I entered the living room with a pile of clothes, I felt relief that I had passed the first hurdle without the three noticing. However, at the same time, the disgust was so great that even being in the same house was unbearable. Feeling dirty about the clothes I was holding, I dropped them all on the spot when I heard the annoying vibration sound. Looking up, it was my mother-in-law's phone left on the couch, and the caller was none other than her husband. I answered the phone as if I was given divine help and explained the situation. As I sorted out the situation in my head, I tried to communicate this ongoing, abnormal situation to my father-in-law as emotionless as possible. Even as I continued to explain while suppressing the nausea rising again, my father-in-law, still confused, said in a flat voice, "I'll be there as soon as possible," and hung up the phone. But having talked with him, I regained some composure and made the call to the next person on my phone. A few minutes after I finished the call and sat down in the hallway, the bathroom across the door was filled with a different kind of noise than before. The sound of the mothers pounding on the frosted door so hard they seemed to be breaking it, and John's voice demanding the door be unlocked after realizing the exterior lock was closed. I turned on the light on my side, and my silhouette, which could probably be clearly seen from the other side, made the three of them stop in their tracks. With an attempt at a calm voice, full of irony, I delivered the bad news. "You should have taken your time. All the family members except the girls will be here soon, so you'll be busy right away. Shouldn't you have enjoyed your time while you could?" After finishing the call with my father-in-law earlier, I had also contacted my father and sister-in-law. My sister-in-law and her husband had been at the local park with their daughter. One of their mom friends, who was also at the park with her child, agreed to look after their daughter, so they were hurrying over to us. My father, who was livid over the phone to a terrifying degree, should also arrive soon. "Hold on, Abby. This is not what it looks like. I mean, we were a little sweaty and thought it would be more efficient to shower together, so it's not like that." Beside John, who was making incomprehensible excuses, my mother-in-law and mother were emotionally shouting to unlock the door. I averted my gaze from beyond the mosaic-covered door and persisted in ignoring them. Several minutes later, my father-in-law, sister-in-law, and her husband, and my father, all arrived, in that order. When I steeled myself and opened the bathroom door, the three of them were completely deflated and had shrunk down. Seeing their nakedness, my father-in-law nearly fainted, barely held up by my sister-in-law. My father was so angry his blood vessels looked like they would burst, and immediately lunged at my mother. As my sister-in-law's husband and I held on to my father to stop his punches, I truly felt how difficult it was to stay sane amidst this hellish scene. Once my sister-in-law's husband separated my father from the three, I put some energy into my weakening legs and demanded an explanation from John and the others. Given the situation, they started explaining without any pretense of hiding anything, and we were simply disillusioned by their humanity when we heard what they had to say. John had first become physically involved with my mother. This was a deeply rooted issue, since the very fact that John had married me was because my mother had caught his interest. He had never shown any signs of being attracted to my mother since our marriage, and had played the role of a good husband and father in front of me, all the while aggressively pursuing my mother behind my back. My mother, flattered by the advances of a man younger than her own daughter, started to enjoy her relationship with John, and eventually gave in to his physical demands. My mother-in-law, who accidentally became aware of their immoral games, instead of reproaching them, chose to join in. Apparently, her logic was, if it was okay for my mother, who was of the same age, then it was okay for her too. And in the end, it turned out to be so. After we received a house as a gift from my father-in-law, John would invite either my mother or mother-in-law to our house for intercourse on the days when I was at work. He would invite one of the two during the weekdays, while Ellie was at kindergarten, and the other on holidays. Sometimes he would leave Ellie with his sister or a friend of his, and the three of them would have an affair, as in this case. Their relationship, which had lasted far longer than we could have imagined, had recently evolved into a ménage à trois, and we were rendered speechless when they told us they had been seeking this thrill about once a week. But it's not what you think. We didn't intend to break up any relationships. We just had aligning interests. It was just a sort of stress relief, you know? She laughed. My mother's words, uttered with a nonchalant laugh, shattered the silence. I remembered when I was still living at home with my parents. My mother had nonchalantly used my lipstick, which didn't suit her at all, and tossed my makeup bag back to me, saying she just wanted to try it out. She was always that kind of person, smiling while doing things I disliked as long as it pleased her. I had been shocked ever since I heard the voices coming from the bathroom, but here I finally felt a rage that could be described as hatred. My mother-in-law, similarly, began speaking in a cheerful voice, also wearing a smile. That's right. We all have families, you know. I mean, I'm doing it with my real son. I have no further feelings about this. Don't worry. We'll stop this entirely. So, Abby, please don't make that scary face. Right? Before I could respond to being addressed, her husband was the first to speak. What do you mean, we all have families? You're the ones who destroyed those. I've had enough of your consideration. I'm going to divorce you, so do whatever you want. Such a strong declaration of divorce was unthinkable from the father-in-law, who until a moment ago had been pale and leaning on his daughter for support. My father, who had been directing his anger at the three of them the whole time, followed suit as if he had been overtaken. Of course, I felt the same. Congratulations, John. We're also getting divorced, and now you three can get along as much as you like. Excuse my language, but just looking at you all makes me want to vomit. So I'm leaving. You don't ever need to show your faces to me again. Perhaps they had never dreamed they would be confronted with divorce by their spouses. Each of them begged for forgiveness in their own words. They pleaded with my sister-in-law and her husband, the only neutral parties in the room, to mediate. But my sister-in-law and her husband, who had been looking at them with open contempt, declared they wanted nothing to do with them and left, supporting her wobbling father. John, however, clung to me, begging for mercy and saying that he couldn't live if I left him. But he had just admitted that he married me to get closer to my mother. I couldn't comprehend how he could think we would continue as a couple. Without even looking at the three of them, I said to my father, "Let's go. Abby, I'll really do anything, just not divorce." Seeing John reach out to me, my father finally threw a punch. At John's sudden stagger backwards, both my mother-in-law and mother let out short screams. I took one last look at their frightened faces, declared that I would sue John for alimony and child support, and left. When I returned to my parents' house after picking up Ellie, I found a barrage of messages on my phone from the three of them. I didn't respond to any of them. After that, all three families ended in divorce. Both my mother-in-law and mother were penniless after being sued for alimony that they couldn't make up with the division of assets. My father-in-law and father had arranged for them to pay me alimony first since I had a child, and I've had no contact with them ever since. Because we had all lived close to each other, word of the incident spread quickly in our neighborhood, full of acquaintances. My mother-in-law, no longer able to bear being shunned by close friends and pointed at by mere acquaintances as disgusting, moved far away. My mother set up residence in town due to her lingering attachment to John and my father. But soon, everyone around her, including her relatives, came to know the cause of her divorce, and she found herself alone. No one was there to help her live alone for the first time at this age, and she is still living in loneliness. John was harshly rebuked and cut off by the friend who had been taking care of Ellie for him. It was only natural that the anger of the friend who had unknowingly been involved in the situation wouldn't die down, and John was devastated by being rejected by a friend of 10 years and feeling misunderstood. If only he had realized his mistake there. But he went on to tell a colleague at work, with whom he was close, about the incident. This led to the cause of the divorce spreading in the company, and John quickly lost his place there. He had just started going into the office again as remote work was lifted, and it must have been a tough environment for him. However, he had no savings, since he had paid me alimony, and couldn't quit his job as he needed to keep working to pay child support. I moved to a child-friendly apartment that is well-equipped with soundproofing and is barrier-free, where my sister-in-law resides. My relationship with my sister-in-law and her husband remains strong. My father-in-law and father also come to our place often, and they have all been very supportive of Ellie's growth. Moreover, when our divorce was finalized, my father-in-law sold the house we were given and used that money to cover John's child support payments. The house, which had never been transferred to John's name due to gift tax implications, remained under my father-in-law's name, which made the process go smoothly. I had intended to receive child support for Ellie's sake, but my father-in-law's quick thinking really helped, since I didn't want any contact with John. From now on, I would like John to work hard to repay the child support that my father-in-law provided. Of course, out of our sight.